You work 40 hours a week, sometimes 50. You believe that if you just work harder, save more, spend less, eventually things will change. You've believed this for years. And yet here you are, still one unexpected bill away from financial disaster, still watching people with less education and fewer hours than you somehow pull ahead. The question you're not asking is the only one that matters. Why are you still poor? Not unlucky, not underpaid, poor. The answer has been documented since 1397, and it has nothing to do with your salary. It has everything to do with what you do with it, and what you refuse to stop doing. Giovanni di Medici started with nothing. No inheritance, no family connections, no capital. In 1397, he opened a small money-changing table in Florence. By the time he died in 1429, he controlled the most powerful financial institution in Europe. His fortune in today's money? Over $200 million, built in 32 years. From zero. The difference between Giovanni and the thousands of other merchants in Florence wasn't talent. It wasn't luck. It wasn't even opportunity. Everyone had access to the same markets, the same clients, the same information. The difference was what Giovanni refused to do, and what you still do every single day. The truth you're avoiding is this: poverty is not a condition you fall into. It's a system you participate in, every day, with every decision. The Medici understood something most people refuse to accept. Wealth is not distributed randomly. It concentrates in the hands of those who follow specific, repeatable behaviors, and it avoids those who don't. You can call this unfair, you can call it privilege, you can call it whatever makes you feel better, but the Medici proved it across 3 centuries and 4 countries. The behaviors that build wealth are documented. The behaviors that guarantee poverty are just as clear, and you're doing them right now. In 1397, Florence had over 300 banking tables. Most failed within 5 years. A few survived. Only one became an empire. The difference was not capital. Giovanni started with less than most of his competitors. The difference was not location. Everyone operated in the same square mile. The difference was a single observation Giovanni made that his competitors refused to see. Poor people and rich people handled the same florin completely differently. A poor merchant spent his profit the week he earned it. A wealthy merchant never touched his profit at all. He reinvested it before it could become a temptation. Giovanni didn't just notice this pattern. He built his entire system around it. And you're still doing what the poor merchant did. You earn money. Then you think about what to do with it. That pause is what keeps you poor. The moment you receive money and have to decide whether to spend or save it, you've already lost. Because the question itself is a trap. Giovanni never asked that question. His system was automatic. Every florin that came in was already allocated before it arrived. 70% reinvested into loans, 20% into physical assets, 10% into liquidity. No exceptions, no negotiations. No, this month is different. The system ran whether he felt like it or not, whether he wanted new boots or not, whether his children asked for something or not. The system was not optional. It was the price of entry into wealth. Stop here for a moment. Think about the last time you received money. A paycheck, a bonus, a refund. What was the first thought in your head? If the first thought was, "What can I buy?" you're in the poverty system. If the first thought was, "Where does this go in my allocation?" you're in the wealth system. That split-second thought is the difference between Giovanni's 200 million and your current account balance. The Medici didn't suppress desire, they automated past it. The decision was made once, at the system level. Then it ran without willpower, without negotiation, without exception. Most people never build the system. They fight the same decision every single week, and lose. Here's what the Medici saw that you don't. The poor believe money is for spending. The comfortable believe money is for saving. The wealthy know money is for deploying. Spending destroys it. Saving preserves it. Deploying multiplies it. Giovanni never saved a florin in his life. Every coin he didn't need for survival went immediately into an income-producing asset. A loan at 8% interest. A share in a wool shipment. A stake in a mining operation. The florin left his hand the day it arrived. It went to work. It produced more florins. Those florins went to work. Saving feels responsible. Deployment is what actually builds wealth. And you're still saving. Now we get to the part you won't like. The 7 behaviors that guarantee poverty. The Medici documented these across 300 years and 4 generations. Not theories. Observations. Patterns they saw destroy merchant families over and over, while their own fortune compounded. These aren't moral failures. They're systematic errors. And you're making at least 5 of them right now. Poverty Trap 1. You reward yourself for earning. The moment you get paid, you feel entitled to celebrate. A dinner, a purchase, something to mark the occasion. Giovanni never celebrated earning. He celebrated deployment. The reward came when the money went to work, not when it came in. You're celebrating at the wrong end of the cycle. Poverty Trap 2. You value comfort over position. You choose the nicer apartment, the better car, the more convenient location. These feel like upgrades. They're not. They're expenses. Giovanni lived in a modest house until 1420, 23 years after starting his bank. He didn't upgrade his residence because he valued position over comfort. Position meant owning the buildings his competitors rented. Position meant holding the loans that paid 8%, while his rivals paid 8% to others. Comfort is what you experience today. Position is what you own tomorrow. You keep choosing today. That's why you're still renting your position from someone else. Poverty Trap 3. You negotiate with your system. You set a budget, then you break it. You set a savings goal, then you move it. You decide to invest, then you find a reason to wait. Giovanni's system had no negotiation layer. The allocation happened first, automatically. The money was gone before desire could argue. If he wanted something outside the system, he had to earn additional money. The system never bent, never paused, never made exceptions. Your system has a negotiation meeting every time you want something. That meeting is what keeps you poor. Wealth requires a system that runs without your permission, because your permission will always find a reason to say yes to now. Poverty Trap 4. You diversify your attention instead of your assets. You have 6 different side projects, 3 half-learned skills, 5 apps you're exploring. The Medici did the opposite. Giovanni mastered one skill, lending. He became the best lender in Florence. Then he diversified his assets. He put money into wool, mining, real estate, and trade. But his attention never left lending. One skill, multiple income streams from that skill. You're doing the reverse. Multiple skills, one income stream, and wondering why none of them grow. Attention is finite. Assets are infinite. You're diversifying the wrong one. Poverty Trap 5. You confuse income with wealth. You get a raise. You feel richer. You're not. You're just earning more. Wealth is what you own that produces income without your time. Giovanni's wealth was the loans he held, not the interest they paid. The interest was income. The loans were wealth. When he died, the income stopped. The wealth transferred to his sons. Then it produced income for them. You're chasing raises, pay bumps, bigger salaries, all income, none of it wealth. The moment you stop working, it stops coming. That's not wealth. That's expensive employment. Wealth is what keeps paying when you stop working. Pause again. Count how many income sources you have that would continue if you stopped working tomorrow. Not savings, not accumulated money. Income sources, assets that produce cash flow without your labor. If the number is 0, You're not on the wealth path. You're on the income path. And the income path ends the day your health or your job does. Giovanni had 12 active income sources by 1410. 13 years into his career, loans to merchants, shares in trade voyages, property rents, mining stakes, textile investments. Every one of them paid whether he showed up or not. That's the difference between his 200 million and your retirement account. Poverty trap 6. You wait for permission. You wait for the right time, for more experience, for more capital, for less risk, for a sign. Giovanni didn't wait. In 1397, the Florentine banking industry was controlled by 4 families: the Bardi, the Peruzzi, the Acciaiuoli, the Alberti, all of them older, richer, better connected. Giovanni opened his table anyway. He didn't wait for permission. He didn't wait for ideal conditions. He started with what he had and built the system while the system ran. You're still waiting. For what? For someone to tell you you're allowed? No one is coming to give you permission. The Medici took position while others waited for invitation. Poverty trap 7. You believe your circumstances are unique. You have student loans. You have dependents. You have a low salary. You have debt. You live in an expensive city. Every one of these is real. None of them is unique. Giovanni started in Florence, the most expensive city in Europe. He had no capital, no family wealth, no inheritance. He had a wife and children to support. He operated in a market controlled by cartels with 300 years of history. And he still built the system. Because the system doesn't care about your circumstances. It cares about your allocation. Your circumstances affect the timeline. They don't affect the outcome. You're using circumstances as permission to not start. The pattern you're starting to see is this. The Medici didn't overcome poverty by working harder. They built a system that made poverty impossible. Not unlikely, impossible, because the system had no leak. Every florin that came in had a destination before it arrived. None of it pooled in discretionary spending. None of it waited for a decision. The system was a closed loop. Income became assets. Assets produced income. Income became assets. The loop ran automatically. Your system has leaks everywhere. Income becomes spending. Spending becomes justification. Justification becomes more spending. The loop runs backward, and you're wondering why you're not getting ahead. You're not getting ahead because your system is designed to go backward. In 1420, Giovanni made a decision that looked insane to everyone watching. He had accumulated enough wealth to retire comfortably. He was 55 years old, wealthy by any standard. Instead of enjoying it, he doubled his deployment. He took the entire accumulated fortune and put it into larger loans, bigger trade ventures, and property acquisitions across Europe. His competitors thought he'd lost his mind. He was already rich. Why risk it? Because Giovanni understood something they didn't. Wealth that stops deploying starts dying. The moment you shift from deployment to preservation, inflation, competition, and time begin eroding it. The only way to keep wealth is to keep deploying it. Comfort is the beginning of decline. You're thinking about retirement, about the day you can stop. Giovanni never thought about stopping. He thought about transition, the day his wealth would run without him, and that required building it large enough and systematic enough that his absence wouldn't matter. He didn't retire at 55. He transitioned at 64. And even then, the system kept running. Cosimo took over. The allocation stayed the same. The deployment continued. The wealth compounded. You're planning to stop. That's why you'll never have enough. Because enough to stop is a moving target that inflates faster than your savings grow. The Medici planned to transition, to build a system so robust it didn't need them. That's the difference. There's a moment in every financial life where the decision splits. You can keep doing what you're doing and hope it works out, or you can accept that what you're doing is statistically designed to fail and build a different system. Most people never reach that moment. They spend 40 years hoping. The Medici reached it in year 1. They looked at the merchants around them, saw the pattern, saw the outcome, and built something different. Not because they were smarter, because they were willing to be uncomfortable. To live below their means while their means were low. To delay gratification not for months but for decades. To automate the system and trust it more than their own impulses. You're at that decision point right now. This video is the moment. I'm going to tell you something I don't usually share. I ran the poverty system for 8 years. I earned. I spent. I justified. I believed I was being responsible because I paid my bills and had a small savings account. I wasn't poor by most definitions, but I was in the poverty system because my wealth was zero. Everything I owned required my continued labor to maintain. The month I stopped working was the month it all stopped. I thought I was middle class. I was just a well-paid poor person. The shift happened when I stopped asking, "Can I afford this?" and started asking, "What does this cost me in deployment opportunities?" That question changed everything. Here's what that question does. It reframes every purchase as a trade-off. A $4 coffee costs $4 plus the 8% annual return that $4 would have generated forever. That's not $4. That's 32 cents a year for the rest of your life. A new car for $30,000 costs $30,000 plus $2,400 a year forever. The Medici saw every expenditure this way, not as money spent, as future income sacrificed. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Every purchase becomes a negotiation between present comfort and future position, and you start making very different choices, not out of deprivation, out of clarity. The Medici had a rule. If you can't afford to deploy it, you can't afford to spend it. If you have enough money to buy something and enough money to deploy the equivalent amount, then you can consider the purchase. If you only have enough to buy it, you don't have enough. This seems extreme. It's not. It's the difference between consumption and wealth. Consumption requires money once. Wealth requires money twice. Once to deploy, once to enjoy the returns. If you only have money for the first part, you're consuming capital. And consuming capital is how generational poverty perpetuates. The Medici built generational wealth by never consuming capital, only income. By 1429, when Giovanni died, the Medici Bank had branches in Rome, Venice, Geneva, and Bruges. 4 countries, 12 income streams per branch, 48 total sources of cash flow. Not one of them required Giovanni's presence. The system ran. His sons took over. The deployment continued. The wealth compounded. In 1469, 40 years after Giovanni's death, Lorenzo de' Medici became the richest person in Europe, not because he was brilliant, because he inherited a system that had been running automatically for 72 years. That's what a wealth system does. It outlives you. It compounds beyond you. It becomes larger than any individual. Your current system dies with you. That's the difference. So how do you build a system like this? Not in Renaissance Florence, today, with your current income, your current debt, your current situation. You start with the same rule Giovanni started with: allocation before desire. You decide right now, before the next dollar comes in, where it goes. 70% is the Medici default. 70% of every dollar gets deployed, not saved, deployed, into an asset that produces income. If 70% feels impossible, start with 20, but make it automatic. Not a decision you make each month, a rule the system follows whether you agree or not. The number matters less than the automation. Manual systems fail. Automatic systems compound. Next, you identify your deployment vehicles. What assets can you access today that produce cash flow? Giovanni used loans because that's what he had access to. You have different tools: dividend stocks, real estate, peer-to-peer lending, revenue-sharing businesses, index funds. The specific vehicle matters less than the criteria. Does it produce income without your time? Does it compound? Can you deploy into it systematically? If yes to all three, it qualifies. You don't need 12 vehicles on day one. Giovanni had one for 13 years. Then he added the second, then the third. The system starts with one repeatable deployment, not diversification. Repetition. Then you eliminate negotiation. This is where most systems fail. You set a target, then life happens. An expense, an emergency, a temptation, and you negotiate. You move the target, you make an exception. The exception becomes the pattern. Giovanni's system had no negotiation layer. The allocation happened first, automatically, before the money touched his hands. If you're using direct deposit, you need 3 accounts: income account, deployment account, operating account. Money hits income. 70% transfers automatically to deployment. 30% transfers to operating. You never see the full amount. You never make the decision. The system makes it, and you operate on what remains. The operating account is your entire financial life. Rent, food, transport, entertainment, everything. If the operating account runs out before month end, you don't touch deployment. You reduce operating. You find additional income. You adjust. But deployment is untouchable. This sounds extreme until you realize what it does. It forces operating efficiency. Giovanni lived on 30% of his income for decades, not because he couldn't afford more, because the system required it. And that constraint forced him to optimize every expense, eliminate every waste, and build skills that increased income without increasing lifestyle. Your lifestyle expands to consume available resources. The Medici constrained available resources to force lifestyle efficiency. What about emergencies? What about unexpected expenses? Giovanni had the same question. His answer was the liquidity allocation. 10% of deployment went to liquid reserves, not for spending, for true emergencies. Medical, legal, disaster. The definition of emergency was strict. If it wasn't life-threatening or business-threatening, it wasn't an emergency. It was a foreseeable expense that should have been planned for. Car maintenance is not an emergency. Cars need maintenance. Plan for it in operating. Job loss is an emergency. You can't plan the timing, but you can plan the response. 6 months of operating expenses in liquidity. That's the Medici standard. Not for comfort, for system protection. So deployment never stops. Here's what happens when you run this system for 5 years. Year 1, it feels like deprivation. You're living on 30% while friends live on 90%. Year 2, you stop noticing. The constraint becomes normal. Year 3, your deployment starts producing noticeable income, small but real. Year 4, the deployment income covers 10% of your operating costs. You're still working full-time, but 10% of your life is now paid for by assets. Year 5, deployment income covers 30% of operating. You're 1/3 financially independent, not retired, not wealthy, but 1/3 of your life no longer requires your labor. That's 5 years. Giovanni did this for 32 and reached 100%. Most people hear this and think, I don't want to wait 5 years. That's fine. You don't have to. You can keep doing what you're doing. Keep spending 90%. Keep hoping. And in 5 years, you'll be exactly where you are now. Older, more tired. Still working. Still one emergency away from disaster. The 5 years pass whether you build or not. The question is what you're building during those 5 years. The Medici chose to build a system that would outlive them. Most merchants chose comfort. By 1450, Giovanni's grandchildren were ruling Florence. The comfortable merchants' grandchildren were still merchants. The timeline doesn't care about your preference. It cares about your allocation. The uncomfortable answer to why most people stay poor is this: they choose to. Not consciously, not explicitly, but through 10,000 small decisions that prioritize present comfort over future position. The Medici made the opposite choice. They prioritized position, relentlessly, for decades, across generations, and the result was 300 years of dominance. You don't need 300 years. You need 5. 5 years of allocation over desire, 5 years of deployment over spending, 5 years of system over negotiation, 5 years of constraint over comfort. And at the end of those 5 years, you're not rich, but you're no longer poor. Because poor is not about your bank balance. It's about your system. And your system will finally be pointed in the right direction. I know what you're thinking right now. This is too hard, too extreme, too uncomfortable. You're right, it is. The Medici system is not easy. It was never meant to be easy. It was meant to work. And it worked for 3 centuries because it was too uncomfortable for competitors to maintain. That discomfort is the moat, the thing that keeps most people out. If this system were comfortable, everyone would do it. And if everyone did it, it wouldn't create the result it creates. The discomfort is the filter, the proof that you're doing something different, something most people won't do. That's not a flaw in the system. That's the system working. Here's the final piece. The Medici didn't do this alone. Giovanni trained his sons. Cosimo trained his sons. Lorenzo trained his sons. The system transferred because the philosophy transferred. They didn't just leave wealth, they left understanding. And the understanding preserved the wealth. You need to do the same. If you have children, teach them this system, not when they're adults. Now, let them see you deploy. Let them see you constrain operating. Let them see the income your assets produce. Let them understand that wealth is not what you spend. It's what you own that pays you. That understanding, transferred early, is more valuable than any inheritance. Because inheritance without understanding disappears in 1 generation. Understanding without inheritance builds wealth from nothing. Giovanni de' Medici died in 1429, but his system didn't. It ran for another 264 years, through the rise of Cosimo, through the rule of Lorenzo, through the patronage of Michelangelo, Leonardo, and Galileo, through the funding of the Renaissance itself. The system outlived its creator by 3 centuries, because it was built to outlive him. That's the test of a real wealth system. Does it survive your absence? Does it compound without you? Does it transfer intact to the next generation? Your current system fails that test. It requires you. The day you stop, it stops. The Medici built a system that started small, ran automatically, and compounded for longer than most nations exist. You can build the same thing, starting today, with what you have. Or you can keep doing what you're doing and stay exactly where you are. Why do most people stay poor? Because poverty is comfortable. It requires no discipline, no system, no delay, no constraint. You earn, you spend, you justify, you repeat. It feels normal, because everyone around you does it. The Medici made a different choice. They chose discomfort. They chose constraint. They chose system over impulse. They chose position over comfort. And they stayed uncomfortable for long enough that the system became automatic. Then the system did what systems do. It ran. It compounded. It outlived them. You're not poor because of your circumstances. You're poor because of your system. And your system is poor because you designed it for comfort instead of position. The Medici designed theirs for position. That's the uncomfortable answer, the one most people won't accept, the one that separates the few who build wealth from the many who stay exactly where they are. Most people will watch this and move on, A few will stay and change. Decide which one you are. No fluff, no noise, just strategy. Subscribe if you're not one of the ones who stays average.